As one of Australia's most beloved young performers, Ella Hooper has never had a problem finding collaborators for musical projects. Making her start in Killing Heidi with her brother Jesse when she was barely out of primary school, the pair went on to form acoustic outfit The Verses. Ella's career has also seen her work with many other impressive figures in the industry, including Dan Sultan, Deborah Conway and even Stevie Nicks. With a huge creative bounty under her belt, Ella has again taken to the studio, but this time by herself, to create her bewitching debut solo album In Tongues. While much of the production was finished last year, Ella told the Barefoot Review's Deb Hawke that the album's long release date of June 28 was to ensure the final product is exactly as she envisioned.
This time I wanted to allow myself to be really fussy and have it all feel right and be right. So I've just taken the time, as frustrating as it is, to get things right.
And what was your overall artistic vision within Tongues? What's it an ode to?
Well, it's actually an ode to exploring challenges and difficulties and complications. So maybe that's another reason it's taken so long, because it's been quite a challenging time. It's, late 20s, turning 30, lots of stuff comes up, interesting stuff, looking at your own cycles and looking at your own habits. And that's basically what it's been about for me, is exploring those transgressions and metamorphoses that happen when you really, really shed your final teenage skin and turn into an adult.
That's what I kind of thought, looking back at your previous musical contributions and this one, there does seem to be that element of transition there.
Definitely. I'm glad you picked that up, because it's all about, I guess there's many, many words for it, but phoenixes rising from the ashes. You got to walk through the fire to become the new you. And yeah, this is the first album from the new me, I think, or the me in transition, actually, on the way through.
So obviously that's been an influence, but what are the biggest musical influences for this particular album?
Everything from Marianne Faithfull, her broken English kind of era, when she went from, she kind of came out of the ashes herself and was this punk goddess and had this husky voice, with so much more maturity and so much more depth. I find that really inspiring. I also find, stuff from the 90s, like Trip Hoppy, Portishead, Massive Attack, Everything But the Girl, those kind of sounds I really wanted to dig up again. And more modern stuff like Best Coast and Lady Hawk, that kind of fuzzy guitar rock as well, which I always really love.
I picked up on a little bit of maybe Beth Orton there as well.
Oh, yeah, thank you. That's such a lovely compliment. I love Beth Orton's voice and her approach to songwriting too. So, yeah, I definitely wanted to look at some of that more subtle female singer-songwriter stuff.
Now, you've usually worked in collaboration for your musical projects through Killing Heidi, The Verses and Broad. So what was it like flying solo this time?
That was the whole idea, and the whole challenge was I've always looked to put teams around me, and I think I've even kind of hid in that a little bit too. I mean, I know I've always been up the front and I've always been the front woman, but I've always felt very protected by the band around me. And this time I really wanted to challenge myself by stripping that away and making an album that was a solo artist album talking about solo female issues. And yeah, it was scary and it was amazing, and I'm still working it out. And that's the process that I was kind of craving.
Do you think that you've hit your stride in terms of your own unique musical style through this process, or do you think it's still evolving?
I think, knowing me, it'll continue to evolve. But yeah, I would like to think that I've made a strong step forward in a direction that I want to keep following down. I'm really happy with lots of the sounds I'm exploring on the album and the territory lyrically. I'd like to keep going further in this direction for a while, but then knowing me, it will keep evolving and changing throughout the years.
And have you found that your listeners have changed as you evolve, or have people generally been there with you from the start with your beginnings in Killing Heidi?
I think I'm picking up a few new pieces of, the puzzle, like the audience is growing. And I think there are still some people that found me in Killing Heidi that have come for the ride, that they're enjoying the new stuff as well. But I know that there's been some amazing fans right through Killing Heidi, right through the Verses, right through now into my solo stuff, and I really appreciate their enthusiasm and their support. And most of the time I kind of feel like I'm writing for me and for those guys. But I really hope to, gain some new audience as well.
Which leads me to my next question. Do you as an artist ultimately hope for commercial success with these kind of projects, or is it more of a labour of love and a matter of, I guess, street cred for a performer?
Well, that's a funny thing with me. I guess I've had such a roller coaster of a career so far and already, and I mean, I had the peak of my career very young, so I've kind of been there and done that in one regard. But I also know it's really satisfying to have your music connect with a lot of people. So there is a part of me that craves mass connection because I know how fun it is and how satisfying it feels to think that thousands of people have got something from your music and got something that you said and that it's connected with them. But on the other hand, I realise I'm not really making music that is typical of chart-topping music right now, and I just need to do that for me. So, yeah, I'm not in it to top the charts, but I also do crave as many people hearing it as possible.
What's the most humbling and life-changing experience you've had as a singer-songwriter that's brought you to this point?
I've had some pretty wild experiences, I think, even in the last couple of years, like going into the studio alone without a number one collaborator, apart from my producer, Jan Skibichevsky. That was really huge for me, doing that first step into the solo world. Also, touring with Fleetwood Mac, and having this incredible experience where I got to sit down with Stevie Nicks and talk to her about performing and about music and about songwriting, had a little audience with Stevie, who's another one of my ultra all-time idols. Just that was humbling, very humbling to be in the presence of someone who's been up, been down, been all around and is still packing out stadiums in her 60s. That was very inspiring.
I bet. And that's actually a good point for me to bring in a question from a friend of mine who's a huge fan of yours, and she wants to know where you hung the oil painting that Stevie Nicks gave you.
Well, it was a picture of a painting. It wasn't an original. It was a colour, beautiful reproduction of a picture of Rhiannon that Stevie gives to people that, have had a little audience with her. So both Jesse, my bro, and I got one of those. And this is going to sound terrible, but I don't even think it's on my wall. I think it's actually in a book of special things under my bed.
Where it's safe.
Yeah, exactly, where it's safe, where I can't lose it.
Now, moving on to the singles of In Tongues, the first single's entitled High Low. That's already been released. The second, Haksan, is that how it's pronounced?
It can be said any way you like. I think I say it Haksan, but I think it's probably meant to be Hexen because the umlaut is on the first A, so that turns it into an E sound, apparently. Hexen.
Hexen, okay. And that's due out on April 26th. Now, both have more of a brooding and atmospheric quality to them than what we're used to with your work. So where did the inspiration come from for this piece?
It's an esoteric vibe. The word translates to witches, and it's all about feeling as though you're under a spell, feeling as though you're taken over by forces that you can't really control. You're grappling with going under. It can be anything. I mean, for me, it's a metaphor about someone having power over you more than you have power over yourself, and how sometimes that's quite seductive, and at other times that's something you've really got to fight. So that's kind of what I was playing with Hexen.
And do you have an interest in witchcraft yourself, or this is more of an exploration of the topic?
I do, actually. I have for a long time. I've got a really keen interest in Wicca or witchcraft or whatever you like to call it, and I kind of very, very intrigued by lots of the esoteric traditions, and I like to read up on a lot of different things, everything from alchemy to astrology, so it's definitely one of my interest areas.
And the film clip, it reminded me a little bit of Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights. Was she an influence in this respect?
Oh, wow, that's awesome. That's an amazing comparison. I think that's one of the best clips of all time. So thank you very much. I don't think I'm half the dancer Kate Bush is. Yeah, definitely Kate was on my mind a little bit too. But people have said that to me with the first clip as well, with Low High, and now with Hexen, that they see a bit of Kate Bush in it. And I didn't think of that at the time. She wasn't consciously in my mind. But I think there are similarities in that it's very expressive and it's very feminine, and it's just letting that kind of feminine mystery do the talking or the walking, as it were.
Now, I know you have a very busy schedule, but can we expect an Australian tour to go along with the album release of In Tongues at any time soon?
Absolutely. I'm so itching to tour. I just feel like that's the piece that's missing right now, and I'm having a great time putting the finishing touches on the album and getting these film clips out there. But until I really tour and get back in touch with my fan base that is out there, I think the In Tongues story won't totally have been told. So, yeah, I'm absolutely planning a good tour.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to it. And thank you so much for your time, Ella Hooper, today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, it's been awesome. Thanks for having me.